Hey guys, this is Sydney and welcome to Midpoint. We're excited that you joined us here today because we're continuing our series on the flip side. Now, I don't know about you, but you probably heard this before when people say, I'm about to flip it. In other words, somebody's saying that they're taking something that you said and they're going to change it around because maybe you misunderstood what they meant. So today we're going to see that Jesus in the Bible is teaching us about justice. Some people believe that justice is all about punishment, but Jesus is about to flip it and teach us. It's just not about punishment. It's about love. It's about doing what is right. Now, many of you probably already know this before. There's times I'm sure that someone's hurt you or someone that you love maybe said something or did something to you. And maybe these are people that you were best friends with. It probably even was your parents. And maybe they did something to you that hurt you so bad that you wanted to have justice. You wanted to punish them. You wanted something that bad happened to them, or you wanted to do something bad to them. But let's just say it was on the flip side. Let's say it was you. Maybe you hurt somebody and maybe you said something you weren't supposed to say. And guess what you want? You will probably want them to treat you a lot more nicer. You will want them to give you more mercy. But sometimes when somebody hurts us, we don't want to do that to them. So Jesus is about to teach us in the Old and the New Testament how Jesus seems or looks at justice. What does justice look like? Justice is not only when somebody does something wrong, there's some sort of disagreement that may happen, or sometimes justice can be when somebody does something or steals something. So justice means this. For some people, and this is correct when you feel this way, if somebody steals something, justice is they probably got to go to jail, right? But justice is also love. The book of Psalms, chapter 9, verses 1 through 9, it talks about that God is holy and he loves justice. And justice is important because justice also means love. You see, Midpoint, God is about justice. There's things in our life that he has to deal with, and there's things that he has to work in our lives. But there's another side of God about his justice that is love. Now, let me explain to you how this works. Usually when you look at the Bible and you see that there's justice all through the Bible, you see it from the book of Genesis all the way through the book of Revelation. You see that God talks about justice. You see that he's going to take care of the things that are wrong. He wants to fix them. Sometimes he wants to restore it. But there are many times in the scripture where you see God's love shows up. And today I want to show you how Jesus flips justice. You see, when we get mad or somebody gets mad at us or somebody does us something wrong, we want to get justice. We want to punish you. You want to throw a book at them, right? Or you want to take your video game and throw something at them. Maybe a video game, probably throw your PlayStation at their head. Don't do that because that ain't cool at all. But we have all kind of stuff that we want to do. And sometimes we feel like it's not good enough. Let me tell you what that means. What that means is when somebody does something wrong to us, sometimes we ask ourselves a few questions. Number one, this is some of the things that we ask. Now, let's just say, let's put this big picture together. I want you to see this. When we feel like somebody did us something wrong, these are the things that we ask. Watch this. We walk into a room and you find out somebody got in trouble. Or you just found out that one of your brothers or your little sister got in trouble and your mom sees that she's hangry. You walk in and say, Mom, what you so hangry? And these are the three things we ask usually. Number one, we ask, what was broken? Right? The next thing is we ask this question. Who did it? We want to know names, right? Who's the one that broke the rule? Who's the one that is about to get punished, right? And then the next question we ask is this. What's the punishment? What we're going to do, you're going to spank them. You're going to put them in timeout, right? You're going to take something away. That's what we do as humans, because humans, we're not perfect. Sometimes we want the stuff that's done wrong to us. We want to repay with justice. We don't want to have love in there. We don't want to think about what's right. We just want justice. We want it now. You know, Mom, big brother did this to me. I want you to do this to him. And sometimes we get angry because we feel like the punishment they gave him wasn't big enough or great enough. So Jesus looks at it like this. While we're worried about what's the punishment, while we're asking who did it, and the next part is how long are you going to be punished for? That's what people do. But this is what God does. This is how God looks at it. This is what God says. Who was harmed? Was anyone hurt? The second thing we see when it comes to God's justice, what relationship was damaged? What could we do to fix this? Who was hurt? And how can we restore with love in this situation? And the third thing God does is how can we work it together to make it right? You see, that's God's love and justice. The book of Zechariah, chapter 7, verse 9 reads like this. And this is God's words. He says, judge with true justice and show kindness and compassion. That means you got to show compassion, right? To those of others or teaching others. Or what can we do? Watch what he's saying. He says, because we're Christians, we have to show what's true, what's right, and compassion, and try to fix what was broken. You see, Jesus showed us justice. See, Midpoint, we're all sinners. We'll always come up short. Imagine how many times you do something wrong. Imagine how many times you've done or said something that nobody's heard, but only you and God has heard. Guess what? God's love comes in and shows us forgiveness. You see, you, me, and everyone that's watching on Midpoint, you got to remember that justice is just not about anger, revenge, and that's what people believe. People believe that justice is about getting them back, anger, revenge. You don't understand, Pastor Sidney, that people have done me wrong, and my brother's always taking my clothes and not putting it back. He's taking my toys, and my brother and sister we don't get along. We always want revenge or anger. But Jesus says, what can we do to show compassion? What can we do to fix it? You see, justice in God's eyes is doing the right thing. It's finding out what's holy, because God is holy. You see, when it comes to stories that we could tell right now, Midpoint, you're probably thinking about some times that somebody did you something wrong, and you're probably thinking about it right now. You're probably saying, you know what? I remember when somebody did this to me, I wanted this to happen. I was hoping that, they fell down in front of everybody or something bad happened to them. But instead, Jesus says that's not the justice that he's talking about. What he calls that's anger, revenge. But Jesus says, hey, what can we do to fix it? How can we work on this? Because justice leads to love. Justice leads to forgiveness. Here's the last point I want to give you. Remember when Jesus died on the cross 2,000 years ago? He died because we're sinners. There are things in this heart of ours that are not right. We do things we're not supposed to do. But does God come in and he sends down this hard judgment? Is he calling fire from heaven? And is God wishing that you fall into a big nasty hole with alligators in it? No, God's not doing that. What God is saying is, I'm going to die on the cross because I love you so much, because you've done some things in your life that you're not supposed to do, which is called sin. But instead of me showing revenge and anger, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to die on the cross, because justice is love. It's doing what God's called us to do. And what he does is he repairs us. I want you to know that when Jesus flips this, he's teaching you and me that there's a side of us that we can be angry. We can want revenge on people. And Jesus is trying to flip it. Goes, that's not the justice that he wants. The justice that he wants is, what can we do? How can we show compassion? How can we restore this relationship? How can I restore my relationship with my brother and sister? What can we do to make these steps for my brother and sister to get along, or my mom and dad, or even with you? There's some things in your life that you have to work on. See, justice is love. And if you follow the principle that Jesus has given us, you understand how Jesus takes the word justice and makes it love. Midpoint, I want you to know that we love you, and there's great things happening in your life. You let Jesus do it.